Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Administration and Finance Committee meeting on April the 8th, 2025. I'll call on Rianne Kassar, Committee Clerk, to conduct the roll call. Rianne.
Thank you. Councillor Craig?
Present.
Councillor Erb?
Present.
Councillor Foxton?
Present.
Chair Harris?
Here.
Councillor Hunick?
Present.
Councillor James?
Present.
Councillor Liggett? Councillor McCabe?
Present.
Councillor Nowak? Councillor Rodriguez?
Present.
Councillor Salonen?
Present.
Councillor Shantz?
Present.
Councillor Verbanovich? Councillor Williams? Councillor Wolf? And regrets from Chair Redmond.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which we gathered today is a traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Chinanton peoples. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions, of course, to our community. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we will now have a motion to reconvene into open session. I'd like a mover, Councillor Foxton, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez. Please use your yes or no button in eScribe. Okay, that's carried, colleagues. We do have a delegation listed on today's agenda. I know that we are now out a bit earlier, and I believe the gentleman is in the building, so we're going to proceed with our agenda. If Mr. Walford joins us at some point throughout our committee meeting, I will likely finish an item and then immediately go into his delegation, just to let everyone know. With that being said, I will move over to the consent agenda. If there are any items that you would like to remove from the consent item to be considered, I'd ask that you speak now. Otherwise, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve the consent report. Moved by Councillor James, seconded by Councillor Wolf, and we'll go back to eScribe to vote on that consent agenda. Okay, colleagues, that's carried. We'll move over to the regular agenda, item 8.1, strategic priority, resilient and future-ready organization. I will call on Wayne Steffler, Commissioner of Corporate Services and Chief Financial Officer, to introduce the report. Wayne.
Thank you, Chair Harris. So today's report, it provides an update on the evolving Canada-U.S. trade environment and the risks posed by tariffs. After the creation of this report, on April 2nd, the United States announced a sweeping series of new tariff measures. While it seems like Canada was spared the most aggressive of these actions, existing tariffs on steel, aluminum, and vehicles remain in effect. And the broader economic impact, particularly on supply chains and procurement, continues to grow. We've reviewed our bylaw and policies, and we feel they are flexible enough to support various Buy Canadian approaches, but recommend we receive federal provincial direction to move forward, since we still need to adhere to the Discriminatory Business Practice Act, which prohibits discrimination on various factors, including geographic location. As noted in a report, a change in our practice will be to advise contractors that will be requiring evidence of tariff cost increases. This is to substantiate the validity of the tariff increase and the costs, and it will be used for a basis of discussion with the vendor. The report also provides some preliminary estimates on financial impact. With new details emerging, staff will be reviewing and updating these figures as more information comes available. Staff will continue to monitor developments, engaging with partners, and returning to council with updates and recommendations as required. And I'm happy to take any questions.
And we have one, Councillor Foxton.
Just a comment. Thank you very much. It's a good report. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Huonick.
Thank you, Chair Harris, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure if this refers to the report that was in the consent agenda or the current report that we're talking about, and I'm so sorry if I missed my opportunity, but I'm wondering about the new tax ratio mandated by the province. Do you know what I'm speaking about, Wayne? And can you clarify whether that's meant to be a low tax ratio, a high tax ratio?
Yeah, through the chair. So that's the aggregate extraction new tax class.
Thank you. Yes, that's what it was called.
Yes, that was implemented by the province that we were mandated to implement. And that does lower the taxable rate for that class.
And so sorry, who is being charged that? Because like the aggregate extraction is a new term to me.
Through the chair. So that's mostly like gravel pits and things of that nature where they're extracting from the ground as much as I'm familiar with that. So they were given a lower tax rate. So when that happens, there's a redistribution through the whole tax class to the other tax class to make up that. So there's no impact to us directly. We still collect the same amount of taxes. It's just a readjustment.
Great, thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. I was curious why we lowered it for the aggregate class versus keeping it a bit higher.
Through the chair, we were required through legislation to make that change. We didn't have an option.
We didn't have an option.
We had to
Well,
implement
that's really
that
unfortunate.
as per provincial direction.
Okay.
Figured that was the case, Councillor McCabe, when you and I were chatting about that. So do you have a follow-up?
Sorry?
I was just saying I figured it was the provincially legislated. You and I had chatted about this one
yeah,
previously.
yeah. That's really unfortunate.
Councillor Liggett.
So we are talking about the tariff thing, right? I just want to make sure I'm.
That's correct. 8-1.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure I'm not going to look stupid here for a second. I probably will anyway. But so at a previous meeting, I had. Oh, you're laughing at me. That's okay.
No. Rihanna and I were just joking about something off.
Oh, okay. All right. So at a previous meeting, I had talked about how we are doing a tax deferral potentially based on tariffs and the economic situation that we're in. So I'm wondering when that discussion is going to happen. I don't see anything about that in here. So 6 months tax deferrals, from June to whatever. Is that happening? Are we discussing that? Is that coming to us in another report?
Okay, go ahead, Wayne.
Through the chair, I recall that discussion, but I don't believe there was any direction given to us to investigate that.
No, I don't. It was just from me, so I just kind of assumed that you would be bringing it, at least having a conversation in the background on a report coming to council on this as we go forward into this whole tariffs thing. But seeing as not, when would I give direction, or when would council give direction, at a later date or now?
Yeah, that's probably appropriate now. Councillor Liggett, if you wanted to add that.
Okay, I would. I'd like to at least have the discussion around the council table and a report, just like with COVID, similar situation that happened then.
Okay, I think we'll make a note of that, Councillor Liggett.
Thank you.
Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. As to the aggregate, back a few years ago, the province decided to classify aggregate as farmland. So what that meant is farmers only pay 25 cents on the dollar in taxes. The other 75 cents is covered by all of us. Okay, so we fought that at the Supreme Court and we won. And so the aggregate had to pay as a business. So they went back to the province and they complained again, and the province said, okay, we're going to give you a 1% tax break. And that goes to all of us, all business, everything. We all pay that 1% for them. When I was at Rome, I talked to Minister Bethenthal, Minister of Finance, saying you realize that you taxed single parents, seniors, people with low income for an organization that brings in billions of dollars a year, and some of them aren't even Canadian organizations. So he said he would revisit it. And I hope to follow up with him on that he does revisit it. So we had already set our taxes at the township at 5.4% tax increase. We had to raise that to above 6% to offset for this increase that had happened. And also, the region would have to take that money and disperse it to the public, and your individual taxes will be paying this extra 1%.
Thanks, Councillor Fox. And Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. I did have a question about the tariffs. I'm curious about critical infrastructure that the region has and what, through this procurement process, we should be thinking about, or maybe we already do, to ensure that component parts or entire parts that we purchase are safe from, there's countries that are engaging in cybersecurity activity, and that obviously would put the region and our area municipalities at risk. So I'm just wondering, what we do currently, what maybe we should be thinking of doing, and maybe some advocacy that we may need to the provincial and federal governments around, where we should be buying or maybe not buying things from, countries we should maybe not be buying component parts in particular from.
So through the chair, so are you referring to IT type of technologies, or?
Well, I guess it could be IT, but it could be, I'm not a water engineer, but pieces that go into some of our monitoring systems, or the data collection systems, or kind of anything across the board, because I've heard of even battery storage and things like that, that there's parts that are made in different places, but then there are some components that are made, particularly in some countries, that do engage in cyber attacks. So I'm just wondering how we ensure that we, if we're purchasing a large piece of equipment, that there's not components within that may open us up to risk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor McCabe, with respect to water and cybersecurity, we, and really not even just cybersecurity, we keep critical, hard to find components on hand. And we also are part of a group, a loose group, I would say, of people who can call other municipalities if we have a real need for something. So we have really for water, it's the chemicals that we're most concerned with, but we have that also in stockpile. So that's the stuff that treats the chemicals that treat the water and the wastewater. From a cybersecurity perspective, we did receive an FTE through budget last year for cybersecurity for our water system, but that is those are IT components that we were using, and I don't have a specific example to show you how we're shoring up that right now, but I'd be happy to come back to council or just send you an email if you're interested in how we're safeguarding our water supply through cybersecurity specifically.
Thank you. I'm happy with an email follow-up. That would be really helpful and useful information. Thanks.
Okay, sure.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. And that was for information, so thank you, everyone. I'm going to go back to our delegations, and I'm just going to get my bearings here. All right, I believe we have Jonathan Walford is here, and Ken Norman, Fashion History Museum. So you're both welcome to join us at the microphone. I think you press the button when you get up there. I understand you have a bit of a presentation, possibly in form of a Instagram reel. We'll try to get that up for you guys. Is that the case?
That sounds great. Sorry about, I didn't realize that we had missed our time earlier. So
we're gonna attempt to get it up for you.
Okay.
Oh, and you got some pictures. So
well, there's a slide, there's a PowerPoint, and then there's an Instagram at the end. So
and so guys, you got 5 minutes. So welcome.
Great. All right, this is an elevator pitch. So listen carefully. It's gonna be a long ride. So how do I push this forward? Do I just say now? Next? Okay, say yes. Yes. Okay, there we go. I just want to give you an idea, first of all, some of the things that we have done at the Fashion History Museum. This is an exhibition of paper dresses that was done in the 1960s. These were disposable garments that were made for publicity, that kind of thing. Next. We did an exhibition called 12-12-12 with life in 1812, 1912, and 2012. Comparing like 1812 is Napoleon, 1912 is Titanic, and 2012 nothing much happened. But it was interesting to compare the three periods a century apart. Next. When we first came to Cambridge, we did a site at the old Southworks site, which is, of course, looks very different now. But our first exhibition there was called Paisley and Plaid, in honor of the Scottish heritage of the region. We talked about those two patterns as they repeat in fashion. Next. We also did an exhibition called Mod Mode, about 1960s fashions. Next. Waterloo Region Museum, we did a big exhibition there in 2013 called Street Style, and it was about the history of the region between 1853 and 1973. And we just showed the sort of clothes that were being worn on the street for that period of time. Next. Here's a more modern part. This is the Edwardian period. And the next, we bring right up to the 1960s and some of the great architecture that's at the universities. Next. We then got a site in Hespeler. This is the former post office as it looked. Next. This is after we did some work on it. This is a gallery we did in the 1980s. It happened to open the same year that the Back to the Future part in 2015 happened. So we decided to do the 1980s in that particular year. We had a broken clock tower too, so it kind of worked out really well. Next. We also turned the first gallery into a tea room, which also used for lectures, presentations, workshops, that kind of thing. Next. We did also smaller exhibitions. This is on clothes that you wear to meet royalty. The blue dress was actually worn to a ball given to Prince Edward in 1860 in London, Ontario. Next. We tackled fur and tortoiseshell and whalebone, all those things that you're not supposed to use nowadays, called it wild and rare. Next. We also borrowed an exhibition on Ken's clothes. This is Ken of Mattel. We had everything he ever wore between 1962 and 1968. Next. We had an exhibition on Jane Austen in honor of the 200th anniversary of her death, I think it was, 2017, yeah. And we just showed what clothes were like during her period. This is an exhibition on Dior that we did following, next one, sorry. That's Dior that we did in celebration of 75 years of his work. We did Next. Made in France. This is all about fashion from France, but the mere fact that it's considered wonderful because it is French, merely that. And next, for 2017, we did an exhibition on Canada. And we were the only museum in all of Canada that did an exhibition about Canadian fashion. And next, we did an exhibition about Queen Victoria. We had some of her clothes on display. And we had someone who impersonated Queen Victoria who showed up and looked shocked that we were looking at her underwear. And next, we brought an exhibition from an American collector in Columbus, Ohio, of Cher clothes. Next. We do exhibitions off-site. This was an exhibition we did in Yorkville in Toronto for the celebration of Canadian Centennial about Canadian fashion. And then next, we do exhibitions around the world. We've done exhibitions in Hong Kong. This is in Bahrain, in Manama. We did a shoe exhibition in their major mall there. Next. A little closer to home, we've done exhibitions in the McCord, Alabama, Purse Museum, right across Canada, all sorts of places. Next. These are publications that we've created over the past 20 years that the museum has been around. And next. These are some of the activities that we do at the museum. This is an afternoon tea that we gave. Next. Our International Book Club,
Minute
which
left
includes
there, guys.
Sorry?
Minute left, guys.
Okay. Okay. Next. Book club. Youth groups that come in. This is a fashion group from the college. Next. Researchers from around the world. Next. This is a coat that appeared in an Egyptian book on fashion. Next. We have experts that come. Bob Haven does beadwork. Next. Regency Bonnet Workshop. Fashion shows. Next. Immersive events. Next. Long elevator ride. Sorry about that. Dance. We do more. Next. Sorry. Next. Regency, ball, next, done plays. I'm not getting out here. Just skip through a bunch more. Upcycling challenge that we're doing right now. There's our research library next. Just some highlights on the collection. Dior has said they're one of the best. Yeah, okay. Kind of get the idea. Sorry, we ran out of time. These are all various pieces that are from the collection. And actually, do you want to play this? This is an Instagram that we do. We have an amazing social media. And this is one of the things that we did. We've had 520,000 people view this particular Instagram video. If you can show that, or is it too late?
So guys, perhaps we'll just disseminate that around to council, but we do have a couple questions, so it gives you a bit more time perhaps here to answer some of the things you haven't covered. So,
Sure.
But I'll let our colleagues ask those questions first.
Sure.
Councillor Huenick.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Thank you for coming today. Have you approached any other community organizations such as Drainton Entertainment or the museum to see if they would be interested in partnering with you?
Yes.
And what has the results of that been?
Nothing yet. We're still talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Unfortunately, you had to rush through it.
It was a 10-minute presentation in 5 minutes. Sorry about that.
Yes, because, well, you know, I've been to your gallery, and, you know, a view of beautiful, beautiful clothes, and the history that you show is extremely interesting, and what you do is very valuable. How much room do you think you need well, obviously you are moving, but, you know, and you would like to relocate in the region, I imagine.
Yes.
And so
At the moment,
how much space?
what we had was 6,000 square feet. We need at least 10, and I think more like about 15, 10, 15.
10,000 square feet
Yeah.
to 15? Is that what you're saying? Yes.
That would,
Yeah.
yeah. 10,
And I know you also, your international presence as well. So can you just sort of describe what value you bring to the region, or you would bring to the region?
Okay, well, that was sort of in here. We do a lot with, we don't have a youth program. So what we do is we have it free to youth, which brings amazing numbers of kids into the museum. For one thing, it means that grandparents can bring their children in, doesn't cost them a huge amount of money. We have Girl Guides coming in massive quantities, day camps, that kind of thing. So we kind of reach a part of the youth that a lot of museums don't reach, because they have these very staid programs where you have to go and you do certain activities, that kind of thing. So I think that's actually very successful. We also do a lot of work with seniors' homes and people living with dementia. We go out and do presentations to them. That has been a huge success during COVID, especially when a lot of people were kept inside and they couldn't go out and do anything.
In addition, the tourism aspect, because of even just that one video that's at the very last slide, the 510,000 people that have viewed that already, we have had tremendous response through emails and phone calls, not only from researchers, but also people internationally that want to travel to Cambridge or to the region now, that would be interested in seeing not only us, but seeing what else is available within our neighborhood and our community.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, I don't see any other questions, so do appreciate you coming in. And I know the clerk staff have already confirmed that they'll disseminate that video that everyone can get a good look at, and appreciate it. And I know we'll probably be dealing with this topic perhaps another time, but we will move on to our agenda. So thank you, guys.
Thanks very much. It would also help if you had a clock here, really would.
Yeah, no, noted.
Just saying.
Noted.
Thank you. Thanks.
812, 2024 plan update and year-end financial results. I'll go back to Wayne Steffler, our Commissioner of Corporate Services and CFO, and I believe Connie McDonald, also Commissioner Resident, pardon me? Oh, Mathieu is leading. Okay, so we got lots of hands on deck here. So Mathieu, I guess I'll go right to you on this one first.
Thank you, Chair. It is a collaborative effort to lead to this the report that's before you today that provides you with an update on the strategic plan for 2024, as well as year-end financial results. So it's really a fulsome report on the progress and impact that Council and the region of Waterloo have made by working together and with community and with a number of partners, and efficiently to advance our Growing with Care strategic plan throughout the past year. Through your strong leadership partnerships and advocacy, we made strides in key areas that the community and you as council have told us that were a priority. So I'll start by thanking you for your continued commitments and the strategic investments that are the foundation to the work that regional staff do each and every day. So you'll see that the report, and we can move to the next slide for a few pictures. The report highlights a range of essential programs and services that residents, businesses, and visitors rely on. These services get folks where they need to go. We talked a lot about it today. They provide affordable and supporting homes. We talked a lot about that at our previous committee and council cycle. They keep people healthy and safe. They protect our environment. They offer cultural opportunities and experiences, and so much more. And alongside that, on the next slide, in addition to I would say, explaining what we're achieving from the strategic plan, the plan has been an opportunity to work on accountability and transparency, both to council and the community. So as part of this plan, we've embedded a rigorous performance framework that includes this report and quarterly reporting to council based on more of the substance and quarterly project updates, but also a review of data and community feedback, as well as cross-departmental discussions on our progress and learnings. The team developed an internal tracking and monitoring system to enable the organization to evaluate. So where do we get the best value for money and learn from our results to continue improvement. Staff continue to improve these tools and processes as well and build spaces for collaboration and reflection to ensure learning, accountability, and transparency at all levels of the organization. So it's through this performance framework, that we are able to provide these quarterly updates, as well as the annual regional yearbook that aims to make our results easier to access for the community as a whole, and speaks a little bit more to the two examples of services and initiatives that were undertaken last year. And I'll pass it to Connie to go through some highlights from the yearbook.
Thanks, Mathieu. This is my favorite presentation of the year, and it is my pleasure to announce that our 2024 regional yearbook, titled Building a Brighter Future, Our Progress in 2024, will be released today. The yearbook features bite-sized information and rich visual media such as graphic illustrations, photos, video, and animation to share engaging stories that speak to the progress we've made together with Council on the community's most pressing issues. I'd encourage you to check it out on social media later today. While much progress has been made in each of the Growing with Care strategic priority areas to date, the pace and scale of Growing with Care implementation is driven by balancing levels of service and affordability. Additionally, Waterloo Region is quickly growing to 1 million, reaching 700,000 residents in 2024, and we continue to advocate for a new fiscal framework that supports longer-term service growth and adaptation. Despite these pressures, Council and regional staff continue to work in new ways to advance the objectives within Growing with Care. Appendix A to the report today provides a more detailed overview of progress, but I'm just going to give you a few of the highlights. As you'll see on the screen in Homes for All, in 2024, the region continued to invest in new housing developments, upstream solutions, and collaborations that improve housing and employment opportunities for people living in the region. This includes advancing construction on new affordable homes, exceeding our Building Better Futures target. More than 2,700 homes have been built or in development, 884 of which were added in 2024 alone. We've also added more community and supportive housing units with a focus on integrating social services at these locations, and construction started on 60 new accessible Waterloo Region housing units, with 88 more that are in the design phase. Progress was made in our shared efforts to tackle homelessness, including purchasing a new emergency shelter, supporting new shelter spaces for women and gender diverse people, and investing an additional $10.2 million to provide essential housing services and supports. We had 66 participants complete the 5-week Pathways to Employment training in partnership with the Grand Valley Construction Association, a program that matches job seekers from underrepresented groups with training and work placements. And ensuring a strong local economy continues to be particularly important as a foundation for this priority area. An extensive, as we heard today, 2024 study found that the region of Waterloo International Airport generated 220+ million in direct annual economic output in 2023, and that has only continued to grow since this time. Next slide. In climate-aligned growth, in 2024, the region supported sustainable community growth and a healthy environment where communities can thrive by making public and active transportation practical and easy, reducing regional greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption, and protecting and sustaining our natural resources. In 2024, timely for today's discussions, the region increased GRT service hours by 10%, on-time performance by 8%, added 3 new bus routes, and we welcomed a 25% increase in Mobility Plus ridership. Through their rides in 2024, 25.7 million GRT riders saved 9,500 tons of CO2 emissions. This supports a number of priorities, including those that are equitable. We also saw great success with the Neuron e-scooter and e-bike network, which was increased by more than 60 square kilometers. And in 2024, not only did the region work to save energy, but we also worked to create energy in sustainable ways with new solar panels that were added on GRT's Northfield Drive maintenance facility and 2,299 megawatt hours of energy being generated from all solar panels across the region of Waterloo buildings. Moving on to equitable services and opportunities, the region invested in programs, community engagement, and new partnerships to provide equitable, accessible services that support the social determinants of health, safety, and complete communities as we grow. 2,000 new childcare spaces have been created in the last 2 years. As well, in 2024, regional libraries welcomed over 100,000 people to their branches, lent 359,333, it's very exact, there's a lot, there's great accounting in here, and saw programs for enjoyment and growth attended 17,300 times. Public health continues to offer health services in spaces people can more easily access and more comfortably access. And in 2024, we saw this result in more than 4,000 health service appointments at 62 different community outreach locations. And a shout out to public health, as I've been meeting with other community partners, they've been talking about how they've been asking others to take the public health approach in terms of taking more service delivery into neighborhoods and community. And last but definitely not least, in resilient and future-ready organization, we invested in new approaches and partnerships to improve services and ensure the region of Waterloo is a great place to work where everyone is valued, feels they belong, and has the supports and tools they need to transform those services that residents rely on. In 2024, the region ran a simulated cybersecurity event and provided ongoing training to staff on how to protect services and the organization from a cyber incident. Being innovative is core as well to this work, and paramedic services has continued to work innovatively with hospital partners to address system pressures that cause offload delays, including utilizing some Ministry of Health funding. Since January 2024, offload delay has trended down significantly, decreasing by 24%. Since 2019, the region has secured over $8 million in incentives and in grants to complete energy conservation projects. And we've also had great achievement this year working with the Grand River Accessibility Advisory Committee on more than 10 different projects, which included planned improvements to transit, washrooms, housing, and more. Thank you for continuing to make strong decisions and invest in and maintain the essential services that residents rely on as our community grows at a rapid pace. Together, we are committed to building the best community for people in Waterloo Region, a community where every resident feels like they belong, and a community where everyone can be proud of. And thank you for letting me take some time to celebrate all that was accomplished over the last year. I'll now turn it over to my colleague Wayne to speak briefly about the financials for last year.
Thank you, Connie. So on the financial side, the region ended 2024 with a modest surplus of $4 million, which is very close to the last forecast. User-supported services, including water, wastewater, saw a $9.5 million surplus, and the Waterloo Regional Police Services ended the year with an $800,000 surplus. Generally, revenue and expenditures were in line with budget expectations, and the surplus will be allocated in according to our surplus allocation policy. On the capital side, total spending was $408 million in 2024, about 57% of the approved capital program. This is due to the lower than expected capital expenditure was a result of multiple factors, including project delays resulting from supply chain issues, scheduling delays, and land acquisition delays. So these results will form the basis for us for preparing the region's audited 2024 financial statements. And we're all happy to take any questions.
Questions, colleagues? I don't have anybody in the queue. You guys clearly covered off everything fairly well. With that being said, there is a motion here to approve the recommended motion. I guess I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Erb, seconded by Councillor James. So we'll go over to eScribe. Your motion is before you. And we'll vote, colleagues. Councillor Hunick? In favor, she says. And that is carried. Colleague 9.1, we've got the committee council tracking list that's being received for information. Item 10.1, motions where notice has been provided. We have a motion from Councillor Craig, which is listed on today's agenda. We will need a seconder for that motion, seconded by Councillor Wolf. I'll call now on Councillor Craig to speak to his motion.
I'm going to make this very short, and as you're aware, if you look at me, I'm no fashion icon, but I've always had a great interest in the arts throughout the region in Cambridge. In particular, I've been very supportive of these enterprises throughout the years. In the motion, I'm not asking council to commit to anything. I'm simply asking that our staff look into possibilities working with the Fashion Museum to see if there are other areas or other places where the Fashion Museum could melt into in terms of presenting its collection and could be part of the regional community. I think it would be a great loss if they leave the region. I think it's something very unique. They are unique in Canada. They do have a national and international flavor and have reached out, as they have stated. Their 5-minute presentation doesn't do any justice to the collection whatsoever. It simply gives you a very brief taste. So I would ask that you would support the motion. We move ahead, and I would certainly like to follow along if this motion is approved and have some input with staff in terms of trying to find a new home. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. And, Councillor Wolf, we'll go to you now as you seconded the motion, and then we'll move over to Councillor Salinan after.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to say that I do strongly support the motion. I think as Councillor Craig has just said, the Fashion Museum is a valuable organization and one that we shouldn't lose from the region. They're internationally known. They're unique basically in Canada and maybe perhaps further afield. They have an extensive collection with thousands and thousands of garments. And I think if you haven't ever been there, hopefully when we find a location here in the region, you will go and check it out. I know they're used for research purposes. If you're doing a play or a movie or anything like that, to see their authentic collection and is very valuable. I was hoping that, sometimes we look at, for instance, the museum downtown, which had problems because they don't have a permanent collection when they're looking for funding. And we have this collection that doesn't have the activities like the museum, that possibly this is something that could be mutually benefit, both of them. Or, and there might be other good fits that we can find within the region. But I think it's important that staff do what they can to help us find a new home. Thank you.
Councillor Salonen.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Craig, for bringing this forward. In spirit, I most certainly agree. I guess where I'm just wondering if staff could perhaps answer, is this something normal that we help organizations try and facilitate, like even the suggestion that Councillor Wolf just said of with the museum, as that's not one of our museums. I guess I'm just struggling with staff resources being put to this and what precedent that might set. Again, not to say that I don't agree with the work of what the Fashion History Museum does, but I guess I'm just looking for more insight from staff about if this is normal and what we could even really do.
Go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Chair Harris. So this collection is outside of our collections policy, which would really require that the collection be focused on regional textile arts. So it's not something that's in our core line of business. We are, as council will appreciate, right in the middle of a lot of work that's already part of our council-directed program. For example, the reinvention of Dune Heritage Village and ongoing work on repositioning the museum relative to our mandate to support reconciliation, our work on supporting archaeological resources across the region. So in a nutshell, we've got a very busy program, and this work would definitely displace part of that. I think we'd have to look very carefully at it. There's no doubt it's a very impressive collection. The Fashion Museum I've attended a couple of times, and it's a very impressive collection, and their curatorial capacity is really interesting. I will say we have had some preliminary conversations with them. They had indicated that they're in an ideal situation, looking for 10 to 15,000 square feet. This is space we do not have available currently at the museum. That's not allocated for other purposes that are closer to our or directly within our mandate. So in a nutshell, there would be implications for the museum team in particular. I will note that the funding program that they've been funded through over the last number of years will be opening its application process shortly, and so they're invited to submit a funding application for their operation.
Councillor James.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Harris. Councillor Salonen took some of what I was thinking in terms of capacity for staff to be able to do this and to look into this. But I'm also really concerned as well about us getting in the business of doing something that we really shouldn't be doing and facilitating something we really should not be doing, and it's not within our purview to do. I do appreciate what Councillor Wolf has said regarding, collaborations possibly with the museum or and the Fashion Museum. I think they would complement very well, considering their purpose and opportunities there. I do want to ask, though, how much in-kind support for the Fashion Museum currently is in the business plan for 2025-2026, if any?
We don't have any in-kind support directly budgeted in our work plan for the museum. We've had some. I know that Julian has had a number of conversations with them, and we provide that kind of I guess advisory support, but it's not part of our core business plan at this point.
Okay, and I don't know if this question is for you, Rod, or for Julian, but I'm always conscious of time and capacity. How much time do you think it would take for staff to look into and to address Councillor Craig's motion?
Thank you, through the chair. It would depend on the level at which we were involved. As Rod said, it's pretty normal for us to give kind of professional advice to museum colleagues in the region and actually across the province. It's something that we would do on a kind of like a little bit of free consulting, if you know what I mean, on a regular basis. However, doing something like a space search would be beyond that kind of scope, right? And trying to solve for finding collection storage or finding exhibition space, or that's not something we would normally do.
Okay, thank you. And I can appreciate and definitely sympathize with the motion. Councillor Craig, I can't support this motion, but I get the intention and the meaning behind this. Thank you.
Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to what Councillor James and Councillor Salonen have already stated, I support the spirit of this motion. I'm no fashion icon, but I care deeply about fashion, and I think it's really cool. It wouldn't be something that I would want the region to lose, but I know that regional space, regional land is so much needed for housing and for emergency services and so on. And so I just really hope that there can be a collaboration between either a post-secondary institution or a community organization of some kind. Oh, and my question, because I have one, Julian, is I know that we provide a lot of KCI funding to Drayton Entertainment, and if they were to strike up an agreement, would they be eligible to kind of share the resource provided there with the Fashion Museum, even though the Fashion Museum doesn't technically qualify for KCI funding?
Through the chair, that's a good question. I'm not sure where we haven't had organizations sort of team up on applications to grants, but that doesn't mean that that couldn't happen. It wouldn't, like the Fashion History Museum isn't at the level at which they would qualify for KCI funding. If the Fashion History Museum teamed up with one of the other proponents, they may, be able to come in with their application, but that would be up to them to work out.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Verbanovich.
Thanks very much, Chair Harris. And I want to thank Councillor Craig for bringing the motion forward. I do think that it's important for us to reflect on the arts and culture assets that exist within our community, and continually look for ways to support them, make them viable, make them sustainable, and continue to add to the quality of life of our residents and our ability to attract and retain talent of all ages in our community. While I haven't been to the Fashion History Museum myself, I've certainly seen pictures, talked to people who have been there and who have spoken very highly of it, including my colleagues here on this council. And so on that front, I reflect on the fact that as a region, we can have several roles. We can have a role where we lead, where we fund, but there can also be a role where we facilitate or convene dialogue. And this, in my mind, is at this stage is simply a request to facilitate dialogue, and that's something I'm prepared to support. I will say that in staff looking at it, on the one end, the positive is we have this asset in the community, and I'd like to see it stay in the community. On the other end, I will also flag, and again, I'm getting this from media reports and so on. I'm concerned about how some things played out in terms of the responsibilities that the ownership group or the leadership group of the museum had, and their relationship with the city of Cambridge. And so, I don't want us walking into a situation where we simply replace City of Cambridge with Region of Waterloo or someone else and have those similar problems being experienced by us. And so I think that is something that staff will need to reflect on if this motion carries in looking at this and in looking at
facilitating any partnerships because we don't want to create difficulties either for our own institution or other institutions in the city. You know, I know these are difficult things. I mean, just last night, our own council had a significant debate around the museum in downtown Kitchener. And after a year-long amount of work between staff and the museum, you know, we've committed to 300,000 additional funding for each year for the next 3 years for that institution, with a number of other things that sort of went along with it towards its sustainability. And so, you know, I think we need to value the assets that we have and explore ways to keep these things, because I do think it's more important than ever that as a community builds, we find ways of supporting these opportunities. So we'll support it in its present form, but nothing more at this time.
Matthew, did you want to comment? I know we've Councillor Craig still left on the docket, but do you want to chime in?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Just, I mean, from a staff perspective, I think what I'm hearing from the team is trying to say politely, we do not have the resources and the capacity to do this, and this would displace other work that is actually pressing. I know the work on the museum itself is significant, and the teams have not been, you know, they're doing this full-time day in and day out, and having a number of services where we're doing space search and things like that. I think Julian mentioned it as well. That is a very significant endeavor to understand what the specifications are and look for space. That is a lot of work. So that would very clearly displace some of the work that the team is doing. It again, we're in your hands. So if council wants us to prioritize this, we'll have to shift other priorities out of the 2025 timeline as required. But you know, I just wanted to make sure we're not minimizing the impacts on what is already a pretty stretched out staff between regional and museum and managing a pretty broad portfolio of grants as well.
Okay, Councillor Craig.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to approach this. I mean, I think a lot of what I've heard, I don't accept in a number of ways. First of all, it was simply a request to facilitate a dialogue, and Councillor Vodovic was very clear about that, and I'm very clear about that. I sat here this morning and I watched Mr. Spooner sitting up beside the chair, taking all kinds of extra requests, and no one talked about capacity in terms of could it be handled. It was just simply done. And so I'm a little bit taken back by that also. I had no expectation coming in here to run into this kind of buzzsaw of we can't do this, we're not able to do this, it's not within our core values. Well, maybe we should be expanding our core values. And I really am not very accepting of what I'm hearing, and disappointed, and I'm going to be very frank about this, with staff's reaction to what I think is a very simple, straightforward motion to see if we can keep an arts gem within the region of Waterloo. Call the question, Mr. Chair.
One more comment from Councillor McCabe, if you don't mind.
Thank you. I was just wondering if someone could shed some light on what actually happened in Cambridge and why the change with the City of Cambridge funding. That would be helpful.
Through the chair, I can provide a little bit of context for that.
Thanks.
There was essentially they weren't paying their rent, and their rent was in arrears, and they weren't able to come to an agreement with the City of Cambridge over how they would handle that, and the City of Cambridge, as their landlord, has evicted them.
Okay, colleagues. So that being said, I have no more speakers. We have a motion before you.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I think part of the problem is there's two sides to the story. And let's accept that, okay? I'll leave it at that. Call a question.
Okay, well, we're getting there. I'll remind colleagues we've got a motion moved by Councillor Craig, seconded by Councillor Wolf, and I'll ask everyone to head over to eScribe to cast their ballot. Councillor Salonen, I think. And Councillor Williams? Oh, she got it, Councillor Williams? I don't think it matters, Councillor Salonen. Okay, and that is carried, colleagues, so thank you for that. Is there any other business? Okay, seeing none, the next meeting will be on May the 6th. We will now start a vote to adjourn the meeting, moved by Councillor Rodriguez? Councillor Salonen and Councillor Foxton. All those in favor? And that's carried, and we will take a 5-minute recess. We'll get Mr. Erb up next. We've now adjourned.
Oh, we're done?
We're done, yeah.
All right, okay, I'll raise it at council. Thank you.
Okay.